wanted to play around a little bit with watercolor and some different things that you can do with watercolor. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, which is masking fluid. You can either use this or you can use from Walmart, you can use rubber cement. And they both work the exact same way. Rubber cement has a paintbrush in it. This comes without a paintbrush. So I've already opened it, so I'm just going to put a little bit in a design. So little dots and then a stripe. And whatever you use, whether it be the masking fluid or the rubber cement, you're going to take your paper and you're going to set it to the side and you're going to let it dry. And while that is drying, I wanted to talk about a few other tips when it came to watercolor. So I'm using some small pieces of watercolor paper, and why that's important is because it's thicker, so when you paint on it, it's not going to roll up and cause you a whole bunch of problems. Lots of people don't know that watercolor actually stays in the place that you put it. So what I'm going to do is I have a plain paintbrush and I have a plain thing of water, and I'm going to paint just with the water on the watercolor paper a square. So you can barely see it because I'm painting just with plain water. If I take that away, and I'm just going to wipe off my brush a little bit, and I'm going to dip it in some liquid watercolor, and I'm just going to tap it on this space here. And I'm going to do one more in the middle. So tap it on that space, and then as I sort of move it around, the water is going to stay within that first initial square that I made. It doesn't kind of seep out of that square if you're careful. And I'm just moving it around up and down until it sort of fills in that space. This is another great thing you can do, is that you can blend colors because watercolor is transparent. So I have red, and if I go over here to my yellow and I add a little bit of yellow in these areas, that is white, and I mix that around, I'm going to still have my red, I'm also going to have my yellow, and then I'm going to mix some really natural, beautiful oranges in there. So I have this, and I can continue to let this dry and I can build on it a little bit more. I want to talk about watercolor sets. This is the traditional one, and you can see how messy they are in the art department. So this is the traditional one that Crayola sets up for you. These dried pieces of watercolor are called pans. And so you can actually pop them out and you can replace them with new pans. But buying the pans is actually more expensive than just rebuying the watercolor set. But if you get this, like you're just conformed, you have to conform to just these colors. So I like to make my own. So I have taken watercolor that comes in a tube at the store, and I've actually squished it into each one of these egg slots. And this is really great because I can customize this for the exact colors that I want. I have let this section dry, so I can put the lid on it and I can take it on the airplane, I can take it to the park, and it's not going to go anywhere with messy paint going everywhere. And then when I'm ready, I just take a spray bottle and I just give it a couple little squirts, and that just wakes up all of the colors, and then I'm ready to paint with them all. So this is really how I take a lot of paint overseas on the airplane, is that I just let it dry. And I like these colors that I've chosen because you can see I have like 3 different reds, I have 3 different greens, I have 2 different blues, so I'm not conformed to just these primary colors. So I have my piece of watercolor paper, and I have already painted on it with something from my masking fluid. I did this one, I think, with rubber cement. Both work exactly the same way. I want a nice soft brush, so I'm going to pick up this soft brush, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing all the way across. So I have a lot of liquid watercolor in here, and I'm just going to paint straight over it. And you are seeing that where I painted before with the rubber cement or the masking fluid, it's not absorbing the paint. So you can see that word joy coming through in here. So basically it's a resist, and it's not letting the paint get beyond that. So I can paint it as much or as little as I would like to. I sort of like this as a little postcard. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to peel it off. So I'm going to set that one to the side, and I have this one. And this one I painted the exact same way. and it is ready to start to peel off. So I can just sort of rub my finger back and forth on it, and it peels off sort of like glue. It's kind of fun to peel it off, and it is perfectly white underneath there because it has resisted all of the paint. See what's going on in that little section. But yeah, so my heart is right there, which is really kind of fun. You could make greeting cards that say like thank you, and it's in the resist, or this one that I just did that said joy, or you could do a symbol. And that's a really fun way to sort of play around with your simple glues and your watercolor.